Hello and welcome to Experience Recovery Conversations. Today I'm joined by Andrew Wilesmith from Ipswich. Andrew, just give us a quick intro, who you are, what you do and where you do it, please.
So I'm Andy Wilesmith. I'm the Operations Manager for Sport and Leisure at Ipswich Borough Council. So I oversee the Sport and Leisure Service. And I suppose as part of this conversation, I also am part of the wider health and wellbeing group within the Borough Council.
Right,
Become clearer later.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And just for clarity, Ipswich is a service delivered in-house at the moment, isn't it? You deliver, how many sites have you got now?
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sites. So they're 3 dry side, 2 wet side, and 1 sports pavilion.
Okay. Excellent. So a nice range of built facilities and activities we'll describe during this conversation. So what normally happens in these conversations is I talk to people about what they were doing before COVID hit back in March, whatever it was, 19th, 24th, I can never remember, and how COVID's changed it. But we're going to have a conversation today about how some of the relationships that you've managed to build over time have really come to fruition for a project or a program or movement as we've described it, for something going forward that really will make a difference to the residents down in Ipswich and surrounding areas. So can you just talk to us about what it is that you're trying to achieve and then the mechanics of how you're going to achieve it?
So I suppose what we're trying to achieve is we've been given an opportunity. So that's first and foremost what it is, been an opportunity. I suppose what we're trying to achieve from this is to make sure that anyone that's touched by what we deliver as part of this, as a result, has a better, healthier, more fulfilled life. Really, so it's about making sure that the residents that end up as part of this program benefit from it. So we talk about health and well-being, but that's quite a broad scope. So it could be that they're more physically active, they're happier, they have a greater sense of community in where they live, which they may have lost because of COVID. It might be that actually they're not using the doctors or the hospital as much. It might be that actually, they've just reconnected a love of something that they used to have. So I suppose the outcomes from it are really, really broad. And in terms of how we're going to deliver it is a really good question. We're really early days with this, really, really early days. I mean, we're talking sort of weeks into it. So we developed the action plan, and the action plan is a movable beast. It was something we had to put down based on conversations we had and the evidence. It was driven by evidence. But how we're going to deliver it, first and foremost, is it's not something that we'll deliver ourselves only. We'll deliver it in partnership, and by partnership I mean through strong relationships. So there's a number of different types of partnerships, but this is deeper than just a commissioned or a procured relationship. Because that's not a relationship and that's not a partnership. It's about actually, building stuff together. So, a good example, so within it, there's stuff around long COVID, which seems to have pricked a lot of people's ears up. But that isn't just about saying, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to deliver a 10-week long COVID course, and we're going to stick it on in the leisure centre. And what will hopefully happen is people will sign up, or we might get a couple of referrals in. We'll deliver our 10 weeks. Maybe do a little bit of an evaluation, and happy days, we've delivered. That doesn't work. It's part of what we do, but it doesn't work on its own. It's actually about building it from there. So currently we're in conversations with the Long COVID Hub, which has been set up locally through ESNEF, which is Ipswich Hospital and Oxford Hospital, working with their clinical therapy teams. So now we're having conversations about how do we build this properly? What's our role within the hub? Because we can't do it all, but what's our role? What do you need from us, and what do we need from you? And actually, where are the gaps, and what can we do to help build and fill those gaps, so that actually so we can start build those relationships locally. So, for example, our instructors, on a really practical level, our instructors should know who the clinical therapists are. They should have that relationship. I mean, a great example is what GM Active are doing. I think.
Yes.
You don't need to talk about it. You just need to see what they're delivering, really. So yeah, it's all about, in terms of how we deliver, it's about identifying those sort of projects within the wider thing that we're doing, and delivering on it, really.
Yeah. The reason I got in contact with you and wanted this conversation was I know you've done some development work recently on your leadership and that type of stuff with somebody we all know and love in Martin Allison. And I know Martin talks a lot about systems thinking. And what struck me was how much systems thinking appears to have gone into this piece of work, looking at people's lives holistically and what are the barriers. So things like debt management and helping people to recover out of debt and homelessness is all part of this scheme, because you've really identified that within the system, those are the types of barriers that stop people living that fulfilled life, or that better life. So how have you used your learning development and sort of systems thinking in this project?
I think it's been integral. It's I think the thing that came out, so I did the Sport England LGA leadership course with Martin. Read Martin's stuff and listen to him, and very passionate. And I suppose what became very clear about it was it was removing the I out of it. I think I've been guilty over a number of years throughout my career of saying, okay, what are we going to do? And this is our place. Mm-hmm. And this is what we can deliver, and that's what we're going to do. Whereas now it's actually, do you know what, we can do so much more. And actually there's this big network out there. And there's this big network out there where you've got things going on over here, and the people over here don't know what's going on. So it's how do you start bridging those gaps? And I think what I went through that course was, it gave me a greater understanding, a greater chance to reflect on how we did things. So a really good example is so we run a program called Breathe Well, and I always bang on about this because I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. So it was about, we set it up about 4 years ago. In fact, it was one of the first projects I got involved in when I first joined the Borough Council. And it came about as a result of a conversation with two people in the community. They asked for a meeting with myself and Brian Clark, who was our gyms manager at the time, and said, look, we suffer from COPD. We've been through the hospital program, and we come out the other end, and there isn't anywhere for us to go. We've got a session that runs down in Felixstowe, but actually we've got a lot of people that live in Ipswich, and it's a long way for them to go. Some of them don't travel, but there's a lot of barriers to participation. What can we do? We said, okay, brilliant, we'll set it up. So we went through a process of identifying the instructors. What we did do was we did speak to the physiotherapy team at Ipswich Hospital. And what we did do was some co-design. So when we wrote the program, we did it with them. Our guys went in and shadowed them to make sure the quality was right, so that we were comfortable that the physiotherapist would then signpost them to our program, knowing full well the quality was there. And that's great. And we still deliver it to this day. We get, I think, about 45 people a week through that program, each paying £3. So wash its own face, sustainable, happy days, better outcomes, and all of that. Now, that's great. I think if I'd done it again, knowing what I know, there's a number of things I would have done differently. And that would have been not just having the conversation around COPD and that physiotherapy team. It would have been, okay, there's other wider health conditions coming out of it. And actually the people that are wanting to come into there, what other issues are there that they're potentially facing that we could then join up? Most of them are older people. So actually there might be stuff around frailty, or there might be stuff around loneliness and isolation. So that's when you start getting into contact with, Suffolk Mind, for example, around, mental health or something like that. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. I was only looking at a small part of the jigsaw, and now bigger picture. I think I'm really lucky as well, is that I've got colleagues that are on the health and wellbeing group internally that do think that way. And that's been a real help. So that's been, for my personal learning, been really good.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I think that whole piece around systems thinking, systems learning, I think is just brilliant. There's so much stuff in there. Do you think COVID and the response that you've been involved in community hubs, in food distribution, all those types of things, has helped you with these relationships? Do you think it's given a bit more trust or something like that as part of the conversation? Massively.
I think COVID's obviously an awful thing, but it has given us these opportunities. And, we can sit here and go, facilities are closed, have been closed longer than they've been open. The financial impact, which is horrendous. But it's then looking at, okay, well, how are we going to turn that around? So we've had a number of my team who were helping with food deliveries with a local food bank. One of our centres is a vaccination centre. Another one is now a community testing site. We you know, we're now plugged into a local health system through integrated neighbourhood teams, which is working with practitioners on the ground, as well as the wider CCG. You know, I've been fortunate, unfortunate, depends how you see it, that I've also been playing a role as emergency control centre manager within the Borough Council, helping the response and sort of helping coordinate that, which has given me opportunity to sit on the Ipswich Hospital integrated management team. So suddenly you're starting to open up. All these opportunities that have come have opened up this wider conversation, and it's built a lot of trust because we've shown we can deliver in other areas. And suddenly they're saying, well, actually, you know, we needed to work together to deliver this. Imagine what could happen there. And I think we're also lucky that we've got an incredibly forward-thinking CCG and incredibly forward-thinking Ipswich Hospital staff within there. You know, Louise Hardwick is the I think she's head of transformation. Essentially, she's our link with the CCG, and she's amazing because she can see it. She's a systems thinker, and she's been mainly responsible for us having this opportunity. So you know, it's helped that we've had an open door to push at. But it's just about, I mean, if anyone else is watching this and going, how do we, you know, have those conversations? It's have the initial conversation, but don't go saying this is what we want or this is what we can deliver. It's, I suppose, ask the question of, okay, where do we sit? You know, what is our place? And it might be a really small place initially, then start growing. But there's no point in going saying, you know, this is what we can do if you can't do it.
Sure.
Or
it's a really interesting point, and I'm so pleased you raised it, because the point of these conversations is about learning, it's about sharing, and it's about growing. And the other thing that I'm trying to do is share other people's conversations. And one of the things somebody said to me was, actually, it was amazing how much trust our participants had in us. So we do a chair-based aerobic session, or we do smoking cessation, but we ended up being the conduit for information to those people because they trusted us.
Yeah.
We're phoning them to see how they're doing around the smoking cessation, but actually they're asking us about food banks, they're asking us about debt management. And it was really interesting to hear that trust the other way. It was about the participants trusting us as the physical activity advisor or whatever it was that we were doing. Have you experienced any of that in the programme?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we've only just started delivering on some of the stuff within this, but on our wider stuff, what we've found is that, you know, so One Life, who deliver our healthy lifestyles, we work pretty closely with them. We have one of their smoking cessation clinics in our sports centre, and actually the person that delivers that is also our yoga coach. Right. So it's starting to be joined up stuff, but you know, it's kind of people come to us saying, "Can you get it out? You've got a big database of members, and, you know, all of that. Let's get that information out." But also, if it comes from us, they trust them. Because if you look at, so we've got a system in place locally called the Connect program. So it's the integrated neighbourhood team Connect program. The whole point of the Connect program is that you've got the individual, and then it's a nice diagram with circles round, and it's what is then needed by that individual to make them happy, healthier life. You know, it was groundbreaking. It's now probably just the norm, but you know, for a number of people, you know, sort of, or probably 4,000, four-figure numbers, we are part of their community. But we are a information service for them that they trust, and crucially, and even when you break it down, it's the individuals within our organisation that they trust. So for a lot of us, so throughout this whole time, we've been doing regular, everyday fitness classes online for free. Put them on Facebook Live, so anyone, even if you're not a member, can access it. And the face of that has been Shelley Boat, who I pass on her details to you. But she's been the face. She won a Lockdown Hero Award last year from Active Suffolk. And for a lot of people, she's been the face, the consistency that they see every day. They did exercise classes, they have a chat on the Facebook. And you know, when you talk about community champions and all of that, that is it. But she's the face of Ipswich Fit. She is the mechanism that they trust. So it's actually, they probably don't trust the Ipswich Fit brand. It's Shelley that they trust, but it's one and the same. So we have found that. You know, we have found that. So
and I think that's a really interesting point at which to end it, Andrew, because I knew what would happen once you and I start talking. It always happens. We end up talking for ages. So I'm going to say thank you so much for your time today. And by the sounds of it, I need to have a chat with Shelley as well around the face of Ipswich from a fitness point.
She is.
Brilliant. Andrew, thank you so much for your time.